Mark 8, 1 through 13. During those days, large crowds gathered. Since they had nothing to eat, Jesus called his disciples to him and said, I have compassion for these people. They have already been with me 3 days and have nothing to eat. If I send them home hungry, they will collapse on the way because some of them have come a long distance. His disciples answered, But where in this remote place can anyone get enough bread to feed them? How many loaves do they have? Jesus asked. 7. He replied. He told the crowd to sit down on the ground. When he had taken the 7 loaves and given thanks, he broke them and gave them to his disciples to distribute to the people, and they did so. They had a few small fish as well. He gave thanks for them and told the disciples to distribute them. The people ate and were satisfied. Afterward, the disciples picked up 7 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. About 4,000 were present. After he had sent them away, he got into the boat with his disciples and went to the region of Dalmanutha. Pharisees came and began to question Jesus to test him. They asked him for a sign from heaven. He sighed deeply and said, Why does this generation ask for a sign? Truly I tell you, no sign will be given to it. Then he left them, got back into the boat, and crossed to the other side. So, Jesus feeding the 4,000. 7 loaves and after there's 7 basketfuls left over. So I believe the other time he did this there were 12 basketfuls. I don't know the significance of these numbers. I know like 4 God has done things in my life, and 4 is typically like every 4 years of my life something will happen. He'll hit me. He'll give me some revolution, and it'll just be like a major step forward towards him every 4 years of my life, pretty much like clockwork. This most recent one was pretty much to the day, like one of the most shame-filled days of my life attached to another horrible day, and both of them had me just going to him. And it was pretty much to the day, 4 years exactly, and that's not a coincidence. So I know, man, like I don't know why what's with 4, what's with 7, but there's significance to it, and I don't know, one day we'll know. I do think it's interesting how the devil's enemy's number is 6, and I guess the God's number is 7, and God says like 6 days you work, then you rest on the 7 days. But with the enemy, there's no resting; it's just working 6 days. There's no 7th day. You're just 6 days of work, and you're just working the whole time. All you're doing is working. There's no resting in God. But anyways, Jesus had compassion on these people. Most would just, at least like in my where I work, people would just be like, "Oh, you big dumb idiots! You didn't bring any food." That is not at all the attitude of Jesus. Jesus had compassion on them. He knew how, some of them he knew forgot. Some of them he recognized that they were just so excited to get the chance to hear Jesus, they just ran out as fast as they could. Logistics were not on their mind. They were just trying to get to Jesus, and Jesus has compassion on them. So told the crowd to sit down. When he had taken the 7 loaves and given thanks. It is interesting how like Jesus gives thanks to the Father, and it's just so matter of fact. Like it'd be like me, asking my dad, "Hey, can you pass the pepper? Thanks." Pass the food. Pass the salt and pepper down the table. Thanks. So it's just so matter of fact. Like it's no big deal for Jesus, because Jesus knows it's in the Father's will to do this, and it's just so matter of factly. And it's just I don't know, kind of gives you a little snapshot into what the relationship between Jesus and the Father is like, and what our relationship between us and Jesus should be like. We should be giving thanks, having gratitude constantly, which can be tough. Like, you get so distracted by like busy schedule, stuff going on in the world, and you have to like make it's like a lifestyle where you have to bring the Holy Spirit into everything. You have to bring Jesus into everything, and when you do that, you're just naturally praying like, hey, like in the morning. Sometimes, like if I'm trying to come up with my schedule, I'll be like, God, Jesus, what do you want me to do? Holy Spirit, what do you want me to do today? And usually it's just like very practical things like, hey, get out of bed, get out of the shower, stop taking so long. Don't lie down on the couch, don't take a nap right now, go to work. It needs to be done. Hey, clean your storage unit, it's a mess. Sweep the floor, vacuum up. And before you know it, before I was thinking like, I got nothing to do, now I just did like 3 hours of work in my house. It is my apartment, and it's just like, I don't know. It's very, for me, like most of the time, I feel like it's just practical things. Like, also just how to interact with people. Like, hey, just love them, just relax, chill out. Don't be afraid. And on the note of being afraid, this is a total sidetrack from the passage, but I usually get so irritated when I'd read passages and people would say, "Don't be afraid." Like, the Bible's always saying, "Don't be afraid." In my head, I'm like, man, what a great idea, man. That is some groundbreaking stuff. Just totally being, I don't know, snarky about it. I guess it's just like, oh, I didn't think of that one. I should have just done that, a while ago. Man, where were you my whole life? Don't be scared. Pfft, freaking genius, dude. And the reality is, like, once you have the fear of the Lord, and He tells you not to be afraid, it's just like, oh, all right, I won't be afraid. And it's that simple. It's like it's such a simple choice. Like, oh, all right, and because you know like who He is and that He's with you, and you really don't have any reason to be, and because there's nothing anyone can do to hurt you. They can physically hurt you, but that doesn't matter. All that does is benefit you in a weird, not sadistic way. That's a whole nother topic. I won't go down that rabbit trail, but anyways, yeah. We should give thanks to Jesus. Give thanks. Notice what you have. Be content with what you have. With what the grace that God's given you. Be content. It'll come. More will come in His timing. More will come in His timing, and you just have to be content. He's trying to teach you slowly but surely. They all ate and were satisfied. Jesus brings satisfaction. The enemy does not satisfy. Jesus does. How often do we want to know, like, so here I'm just looking, the Pharisees came and began to question Jesus to test Him. And they asked Him for a sign. How often do we test Jesus? I'm trying to think, like, how I test Him. And how I've tried testing Him in the past very, very foolishly, and, like, trying to do things that God said would happen, but I would do things basically at the wrong time with the wrong people, and it would never end well. God's promises will come in their own time. You can't force God's promises to come on your time. God's promises will come in His time, in His grand plan. He's already coordinated for your mistakes. He's already put those into action. He's already put into account your screw-ups and what you're going to do. His promises are still rock solid. They will happen. So don't test Him. Just relax. Just receive His peace. Trust His timing.